me what
It is the 16th of September. This is Rabbi Levitt, Horeb. Yeah, I sent an email to Alan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did too, because he sent me something about what page we were on, and
Right, me too.
but I didn't send him a link.
I didn't send him a link either. Maybe I should send him a link.
Yeah, it might be a good idea.
I just told him what time and what page. All right, I'll send him a link now. So we don't.
Okay, great.
Okay. Bezrat Hashem. So, we started yesterday, chapter 69, covering an ennobling of animal nature. So, let's see. Question is, how far did we get?
We got up to 458.
458. Okay. Okay. So I guess we'll go from 458. Okay, Mayor, would you like to start?
Okay. Says, be human in your appearance. Only those parts of the body should be visible which primarily serve as instruments of work, namely face and hands. But everything that primarily serves animal needs should be covered, so that only the human should appear to your physical eye and the animal withdrawn. And thus your appearance will already remind you that you exist for a divine human task and not for a physical animal one. And as you should withdraw the animal part of the body from your eye, so also should you not lay too much stress on your outward appearance, lest you proceed with a haughty air, as if it were qualities of the body and not of the mind in which you desire to show your greatness and real value. Let your walking, your standing be easy but modest. In order to preserve this modesty, our sages especially advise us never to leave the head uncovered under the open sky, in order that we may always be aware of the limits of the animal nature in humans and know that where the human sphere ends and the sphere of the divine activity directly begins. This applies to the male sex, which, using its physical strength for its appointed task to replenish the earth and subdue it, easily throws off bashful modesty and underestimates the animal in man. Even when putting on and taking off your clothes, guard yourself against uncovering your body. The teaching of God has such a high regard for this feeling of bashful modesty that our sages declare that the wise man may be recognized by his never turning his eye to the side of the garment which is meant to touch the body.
That's Orachaim 2 and 3. By never turning his eyes to the side of the garment which meant to touch the body. Okay. When he has a note on the bottom, perhaps the advice, this was on, know that where the human sphere ends, the sphere of divine activity directly begins.
Yeah, I thought that was the whole concept of the kippah, to remind us that, like what he's sort of saying, Hashem is always above us and with us.
Oh, that's what he's talking about. You're right. Perhaps the advice of our sages never to leave the head uncovered under an open sky expresses the following idea. Just as we cover up everything animal-like in our body from man, so the most human part of our body, namely the head, also has to be covered from Hashem as a sign of human modesty towards his divine greatness.
Okay. I wouldn't have written it that way, but it sounds similar.
Interesting that he says to not leave the head uncovered under an open sky. That sounds like inside the house. There's not the same. The idea doesn't apply.
Well, that's a good question, because when you're in your house and you say a bracha, you should have your head covered as a reminder of Hashem's above you. And I think that's why a lot of people keep their kippah on in the house or even outside the house, because you never know when you're going to say a bracha.
I heard that your house is considered to be your Dalet Amos.
Ah. So then you wouldn't need necessarily need to keep on.
Okay. Not sure. I'm not sure where it says this. I'd like to. Okay. Yeah, I don't think what he says over here, or Chaim 2 and 3, I don't think that has anything, any direct bearing on head covering. It's talking about the garments of the rest of the goof. Okay, fine. Let's go further.
Be modest in your animal functions. Have regard for your body. Do not postpone the satisfaction of the needs which are natural to it. For only a pure, clean, and healthy body is an efficient instrument for the activity of the spirit. But be modest in its animal functions. Never allow the human eye to witness your animal functions. If you are in the open and go outside the reach of human sight, even then, uncover yourself only as much as is really necessary, and keep away from such touching and looking at the body which is otherwise forbidden. Also, never leave any traces behind for the human eye to see, but cover them up so that they do not give the human eye any reminder of the animal nature of man. Be as modest by night as by day, and be conscious of the fact that Hashem, who does not wish you to sink down to the animal level, accompanies you everywhere.
Okay.
Wow.
So this comes from Or Chaim 3. Okay, we go further. 460, Mayor. Oh, sorry, Alan is waiting. I hope he wouldn't wait too long. Oh, there's two people here.
Or maybe Roy's there too.
Yeah. Okay, so that's that. And Roy's coming in.
I'm here too.
Morning, Alan. Okay, good morning, Roy.
Morning, Rabbi Levitt. Good morning, Alan.
Morning.
Morning, Lou. Good morning, Maia.
Hi, good morning, Roy.
Right.
Was Rabbi first on?
I don't know. I had him hooked up, but he never showed up.
His
No,
email said that he had an appointment.
Oh, he had an appointment. Oh, I guess he never got back from it then.
He said he'd be late, but he was very late.
I guess so. Right, he had an 8:30 appointment of some nature. Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to connect the whole time, so I'm pretty sure he didn't come back in time.
Yeah, so was I.
I sent him an email. Please let me in.
Uh,
Oh, well.
Okay, so we're at holding in the section 460 on page 335, chapter 69, covering and ennobling of animal nature. Okay, so Alan, would you like to do section 460?
Okay. Our sages introduced the regulation that the hand should be washed after every animal function, after every touching of the body, which is normally covered. This they did in order to preserve modesty, chastity, and that kind of human dignity which sees in the satisfaction of animal needs only the exception demanded by the human body as created by God, with which guards itself against bringing an animal-like tendency into high realms of human activity. Thus the sages drew a division between the animal function and the pure human life, so that you beware of the fact that even if you must do something animal-like, the other part of your life should still be kept free from such animal nature. When you awake from sleep, where you lived a merely physical life, you now raise yourself to human life, you should wash your hands for the same reason, for the hands are the most important, the most human part of the body. Thus, you should dedicate your body to its human task and to a partition between animal and human life. Added to this is the duty of health. Pour the water over the hands 3 times when you awake. Also wash your face and rinse your mouth. Our sages repeatedly advise cleanliness and purity, keeping the body pure from any touching of the impure, and they advise the washing of the body when so touched.
Okay. What I was going to say was it's interesting that I mean a lot of these matters of washing the hands after you touched a place that's usually covered. It has to do with also with the even though basically we don't observe the laws of Tumantara today, purity and ritual purity and impurity today, because in any case, we're basically Tame Mace, and we don't have the ability to purify ourselves from Tumas Mace. But when there are in order to make a okay, he's just talking about it in terms of this concept of the human dignity and trying to uh, de-emphasize and keep the fact that the person he has functions that the animal also has, sort of in the background, and that's not the main person himself, but it's to be de-emphasized. But it goes into various halachas of washing yourself, like we wash our hands for bread, we wash our hands before eating something that is generally dipped in one of the liquids. We see different halachas about that we do keep for ritual purity and impurity. Okay.
Just one quick comment. Where did it say? It said added to this is the duty of health. Historically, I think in Europe during the bubonic plague, many of the Jews survived it because they did constantly wash, as opposed to the non-Jewish population.
That's also why we were called witches, and
Yeah.
we could survive it, and they wouldn't believe. The common person, they wouldn't believe that washing the hands is cleaning yourself from dirt.
Absolutely. Very good, Roy.
Mm.
Okay. 461, we go to Roy.
Your everyday human life should bear the stamp of man's nobler side. Your higher human activity should remain far from any animal function, so that your coarser nature be not nourished by the sight of the animal, lest your better self withdraw. This is especially important during the study of the Torah, when you raise yourself above your usual sphere in order to learn the Jewish wisdom of life, or during prayer tefillah, when you temporarily step out of your active life and approach God in order to dedicate yourself before his countenance to a divinely inspired human existence. Then you must ensure that there is no trace of animal function around you, nor any bearing of animal parts, and you must allow your whole being to be bashfully modest. During tefillah, everything animal-like about you should be covered. There should be a dividing belt between the lower body, which belongs purely to the animal section of your life, and the upper body, which is dedicated more to the human section. Your head should be covered as a sign of modesty and submission to God. Body and clothing must be clean, so that the place of prayer itself. Any offending substance within 4 cubits of you and within sight of your eyes should be covered. There should not be any unpleasant odor within 4 cubits of you, and let not your eyes see the bared animal parts of a man, which modesty bids be covered. Instruct yourself regarding this. There is also, therefore, a special duty to cleanse the hands before every prayer and to keep them clean of any touching of the covered parts of the body during prayer.
Okay. Right. Yeah, we used to, if you remember, when we used to be in Romema, right in front of the little sink in our shear room over there, there used to be Rabbi Moore put up a sign that's maybe you couldn't read it. It was all in Hebrew from the Shulchan Aruch that before every tefillah, uh, one should wash his hands before every tefillah, shachris, and mincha and mariv as well. Um, yeah. Okay. 462. And we go back to Lou.
We have seen that Jewish law is so concerned that even our physical functions, necessary as they are, should be lifted up by the human spirit rather than that the human spirit be dragged down by them. In consequence, we should cover up everything pertaining to man's lower nature so that even the physical eye should not rest on it. However, even more important than protecting our physical eye from beholding man's lower nature is guarding our mind's eye, our spirit, from pollution. For this purpose, it is especially important to guard our speech, that function which mainly distinguishes man from animal. The spoken word of man is or should be something noble, spiritual, divine, and to defile human speech by obscene and unclean talk means to kill shame and modesty in man. What depravity it is to uncover in one's speech that which shame the messenger of man within him everywhere bids be covered. That is the sin which our sages, naming it Nivel Hapeh, call withering, degradation, killing of the mouth. Footnote says the metaphor of the phrase Nivel Peh expresses the withering, Hebrew nevel, or degradation of the mouth, the instrument of human speech. Woe to the time when the word is no longer pure, when depraved youth has become so brood-like that their very spirit rejoices in the animal nature, and even speech must serve this shamelessness. Woe to the time when pure speech can no longer sound in the circle of youths, because the defiled mind of youth has drawn every pure word into the sphere of their tainted imagination. And woe also when the future thus decays the mind. Youth of my people, do you also wish to defile your noblest self in its noblest expression, the spoken word? Do you wish to scare away bashful modesty so that your cheek will blush no more, so that your inner self will no more be indulgent, that it can harbor words of brutish defilement? Beware of the consequences of impure talk. For if you no longer blush at the word, you will soon cease to blush at the deed itself. Flee from every circle, flee from every associate that allows you to hear obscene, brute-like talk. Nivel Peh is the venom with which youths that have become brutes themselves poison the minds of their innocent friends. The unclean word which has been heard stains the spirit, stains the heart, nourishes the animal nature until it feels the spirit's bonds loosening, breaks loose, and pulls you down into the mud. Flee. And you Jewish parents, if the purity of your son and daughter is dear unto you, yourselves refrain from every obscene word, and show the door to every friend of your family whose talk sounds brute-like. He is not a friend of your family.
Mm. Okay. Very interesting. I never, I must confess that I never put together the word nivel peh. I just thought the nivel is inappropriate and degradation, but I never put together what Rav Hirsch is saying over here, which is absolutely true. He's saying the word the nun base lamed. If you look it up in the in the sources, you'll see that it also means withering, like the withering of this is the word that Yisro told Moshe Rabbeinu that if he doesn't have a Sanhedrin to take over for him, and he's going to be the only one that judges the whole Jewish people all the time, he said, you're going to wither away. And he used this word, Naval Tipo. He didn't mean to say that he's going to be degraded, Chas v'sholem. He meant to say he's going to wither away because he's just not going to be able to hold out with such a schedule like that. And so this was very interesting connection that Rav Hirsch tells us over here. That's really the source of that's really what the degradation is, I guess. It's the withering away and the nullification and the weakening of the mouth through saying such types of words that should not be said. We know Rav Hirsch is is an expert in language. Okay. 463. We go to Meir.
Okay. It says, thus, you should accustom yourself to subdue the animal and only appear as human in all your actions. But you should not despise, disregard, or destroy your animal part. Rather, should the aim of your work upon yourself be ultimately to reconcile the animal and the spirit within you, and to ennoble and sanctify the animal itself by giving the animal only to which God has decided, and by using only for those purposes for which God has associated it with you. For this is its original purpose, and thus you stand as a humanly divine servant of the divine will in your animal life also. Our sages wisely connected our education in this lofty attitude and towards this end of human perfection with the human meal. The human meal, although it is itself a physical function, is ennobled and elevated above other animal functions by the fact that the organ which serves it is at the same time the servant of the noblest human activity, of human speech. The mouth of man is on account of its functions, eating and speech. Also, the reconciling bond between spirit and animal. Therefore, our sages dedicated the meal as the first step towards the ennoblement of the animal and man. Thus, the table becomes the altar, and thus you prepare yourself for the meal as for the eating of sanctified foods in the temple. You can eat only because of pleasure, in order to serve as a trickling of your plate. Then your eating is not yet purely human, and thus it is with every animal function and the satisfaction of the physical needs, if the allurement of pleasure alone, which God has associated with every satisfaction of a physical demand, attracts you. If, however, you eat only so much as you need, and with the intention of strengthening yourself with the eating for a well-equipped life of righteousness and love, pleasing to God, then your eating becomes human and your deed becomes a divine service. And thus, similarly, does every animal function become human and a divine service if you do it only with such an attitude, and only for such a purpose, and only in that measure, and only in that fashion that God demands and his word teaches. That is why you should approach your meal as you would a holy activity. As the priest dedicated himself to the sacrificial service by washing of his hands, as the hands were washed before partaking of sanctified foods, so should you dedicate your hands for the eating of ordinary bread by washing them, so that you will learn to concentrate even animal activity to divine service by humanly pure feeling, and begin that process of ennoblement with the meal, so that you will thus strive from the consecrated human meal to sublimate your animal in the spirit, and to reconcile and unite the animal and the spirit, which is the highest task of your life. Then does your table become an altar which brings atonement and purity of life and satisfaction of life. And you thus learn that really your whole life, even your bodily life, should be a divine service, a holy fulfillment of divine purposes. And your whole life is indeed a divine service if you dedicate it to such lofty purposes as accord with the divine teaching which reveals them to you. This is what our sages wish to express with the beautiful saying, as long as the temple stood, the altar was the source of purity and atonement. Now that the temple has disappeared, the table of the Jewish home has taken its place.
Wow.
Mm.
Oh, I wonder where it says that. This last thing he quotes, this is what our sages wish to express with their beautiful saying. As long as we had the Beis Hamikdash, the altar, the Mizbeach in the Beis Hamikdash was the source of Tara and the source of Kapora. And now that the temple has disappeared, the table in the Jewish home has taken that place as a source of purity and atonement.
Wow.
Okay.
How do we see that the table is the source of purity and atonement?
Well, the way that we eat, we wash our hands, at least before bread. We do. Whether you have to wash your hands simply to make a bracha, that's another point. But then there's the bracha before the food that you eat, and the Birkas Hamazon, and the brachas that you make after you eat. And there's a number of simonim in Shulchan Aruch. What's the proper conduct at a Suda as well. So so we see that there's a lot of there is a lot of there is a lot of talk about eating, and so we can understand that it's atonement. Um, that I'm not sure about how eating that we do.
Rabbi, you're breaking up and dropping out.
Although there is a Chazal, there is there is a of a Suda of a Pidyon Ben, I think. Though he did many fasts, so he really well the fact that
Rabbi, it seems that when you're facing the way you're facing now, we can hear you clearly, but when you face the other way, you break up.
okay, he mentions atonement over here.
No, no good.
Then does altar which brings atonement, sanctification of life. Yeah, the purity is more is easy to understand. The atonement is a little harder to understand. He doesn't. I mean, I guess the whole. I mean, just like we say that the. I mean, we're saying that the. I mean, the what he's saying is that the eating at the table is sort of like the service of the priest, and we know the service of the priest in the temple with his sacrificial service created atonement. That we know. So so you want to know how it is that if we eat in the proper way, how is that an atonement? That's what he's saying. That's exactly what he's saying, and he's showing us that the with the various things that we do, and more so than just somebody who goes and eats without all these different observances and halachas, is that's what's making it. That's what's making the eating like the priest who's doing the sacrificial service. So okay. Okay, so how much time we got? We have 3 minutes left. Okay. So should we go to 464 for a few minutes? Who's next? Alan? Alan's coming back. Just in time, Alan. You're up for reading 464. Um, Got the place? Section 464.
Can't hear you, Alan.
Now we can't see him either. Oh, okay.
There
Here
he
he's back.
is.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, so yeah. Okay, so that's we'll start for 464 tomorrow. Bez Hashem.
Oh, okay.
I'll see you, Maya.
Okay, have a good day, everyone.
Okay, have a good day.
Thank
All
you.
the best, Mayor.
Thank you
Have a
so
great
much.
day.
You